Okay, we're back in session, and before I move on, I want to, I forgot in the last group to introduce our new manager, no longer interim. You got to change your plaque there. Mr. George Wood. I'm glad you could be here with us this morning. It's something I failed to do until later on in the last presentation. Since we don't have our names up here, I want the group up here to introduce themselves so you'll know who you're speaking to. So starting to my left, if you would introduce yourself.
My name is Kent Yelverton. I'm Director of Property and Construction for the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. We're also a partner in this project with the county.
Eddie Pitzer. I'm with the local nonprofit Wayne County Livestock Development Association.
Julian Acock, a farmer in the county.
I'm Greg Shackelford, a regional executive with Southern Bank out of Mount Olive.
And I'm Kevin Johnson, the Director of Cooperative Extension in Wayne County.
This is our subcommittee for our agriculture whole committee. And as you see, I got a great group. We got a grassroots number of people up here, and I thank them for their participation in this today, as well as you guys coming and make your presentation. What our plans are is to allow you to make your presentation, and we'll hold our questions till the end, because we've got an hour and we're already we're just about on time. Then we'll ask questions at the end and give you, and got some fellow commissioners sitting out there behind you too, so they may have some questions as well. What we're going to be doing is each presentation we'll evaluate it and we'll rank you accordingly, and then we'll give it to Ms. Woods, and she will tabulate the scores, and we'll have a firm that's going to be selected for this process. We may or may not be able to finish that today, but it will not take long. So anyhow, I will turn it over to you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. We've been here talking with Wayne County about a couple other jobs recently, so we're very thankful to be back in front of everybody. For those of you who haven't talked to us or seen us lately, MHA Works is our company name architecturally. We're a 35-person architectural office. Our headquarters is in Durham. I am the partner in charge of our Greenville office. We've got 9 full-time employees in Greenville. And we do a very wide cross-section of work. We worked on a lot of state construction projects. We work on a lot of large projects that are reviewed by DOI. We do a lot of work for the types of folks that your extension service would actually be servicing. Coastal Agribusiness is one of the clients that we have right now, doing about 60,000 square feet for them. So we do a really wide cross-section, a lot of research and development type spaces. So one of the things that you get when folks hire us is a very wide diversity of work types. We feel like that'll be important with regard to this job because you do have a lot of different users in the space. My name is Albie McLaughlin. I'll be the principal in charge of the project should you hire us, and the project architect involved from start to finish. Currently, I'm in charge of managing a $25 million job for East Carolina University that's on schedule. We are also doing a number of other very large scale projects analogous to what you're doing. All of those have been moving ahead on schedule, on budget, no issues. Our Eastern 4-H project was NC State's first LEED Gold freestanding building. That was a job I was in charge of managing, and its budget was about $170 a square foot. So we've looked at your $175. We feel like there's a little more site work on your job and maybe not quite as ambitious on the LEED side of things, but we feel pretty good about the pragmatic nature of that building and being able to do what you need done within your project budget based on some of our recent experience. With me today, I also have two young ladies that also work with me in Greenville.
My name is Amy Sproul. I'm one of the project managers out of our Greenville office. Oh, sorry. Currently, I'm working on a $16 million project for East Carolina University. It's rolled out in 3 phases. With our first phase, we were nominated for a project management award with the North Carolina State Construction Office. So I really think that we might be a good fit for your project as well. And this is Danny Hoff.
Hi there. Like she said, I'm Danny Hoff. I will be a product designer as part of this team. My recent project experience is a $7 million project for the Department of Transportation, and as long as everything on the client's end lines up right, we should be finishing and completing that project about a month ahead of schedule, which is really exciting. Also a Goldsboro resident, so I take a lot of pride in our community, and being able to design a project in my own backyard, so to speak, would be great. And now I'll introduce our consultants with us today.
Good morning. I'm Dirk Tyson with Rivers and Associates. We're a landscape architecture, civil engineering, and land surveying firm in Greenville. We've been in Greenville for almost 100 years now. I've been there for the last 25 of those. I am vice president of the company. If we are selected, I will be personally working on your project and look forward to it.
I'm Mark Roy with RPA Engineering. I'm a structural engineer and owner of the business, and we're also located in Greenville. We have worked with MHA and also with Rivers and with Engineering Source on many projects for several years, and I as well would be the lead person from our end on this project. We have done a fair amount of work in this area. I've done some work before the Berry Center, at the Cherry Research Farm, and quite a bit at the base, Seymour Johnson, and a few other things in the city and the county area. So we're familiar with the area.
I'm Wilson Pugh with Engineering Source for the plumbing, mechanical, electrical engineering firm, and I'm the sole owner and have been in business since the year 2000. And we've done several projects with all of the folks here, some larger, some smaller. As Albie mentioned, state construction work, government work, private work, office, all of the things that are involved in this. And we've been involved in some green and LEED type projects. We've looked at centralized plants with thermalized storage and some things like that as a possibility for being real green, or decentralized with single zone VAV type systems and looking at controlling just certain areas. And as far as daylight harvesting and things like that as well, to help us with all the natural light and things that you guys have requested in your program, to be able to try and integrate those things and look at some LED lighting that's naturally dimmable and some things like that to try and control our energy levels and such on those type of things. And we've done several projects. I guess the largest thing we've done is about 110,000 square foot middle school. So we've done some really big projects and all the way down to very small.
We also realize that you have some additional amenities outside the bounds of the project proper. We also have Montgomery Smith as a greenhouse consultant. If the research component or the size of that greenhouse is not tremendously large, we've pursued other research greenhouse projects. We've worked with East Carolina on their West Research Campus on some projects, but should the scope of that aspect of the project grow, Montgomery Smith has worked both on the botanical space for Biltmore here within the state, but they also are doing work with the Smithsonian, so they have a lot of expertise when it comes to that regard. So we could go from sort of the full spectrum of what those outbuildings might be with the team that we have. We really want to focus on today what is it that's going to make your particular project successful. Danny mentioned doing something close to home, and one of the things that we really feel like is unique to our team is the fact that while we are all design professionals, it's sort of hard in Eastern North Carolina to be too far removed from agriculture, but I actually grew up in an agriculture family. If I wasn't doing architecture, I'd probably be working on my father's farm. And sort of, the proof's in the pudding this week. This is the article from the Daily Reflector, and this is his blueberry farm. It's about halfway between Greenville and where we are today, right before you drive up and down 903 a fair bit. There's strawberries on 903, and right next to that is about a 2-acre patch of blueberries. So my grandfather owned and operated Eastern Tractors. I understand the role of architecture and its importance within our community, and the Rinston Historic District is nationally registered. I was part of a team that helped that happen, so preservation of farmland is something that our team takes very serious on a level outside just what we do on a professional basis. So as architects, our proven ability we realize that the way you've structured your solicitation, you're looking at hiring a team potentially for just the first phase of what's going on. You're going to make a decision at the end of design development about whether you're going to retain this design team or whether you're going to use a relatively new delivery method for how to proceed with the rest of the project. And that being said, we feel like we have a lot of advantages in construction administration. Any of our clients, we'd be glad to reference to our abilities to do construction administration. Folks who work with us usually don't want to work with other folks after the fact because of the way we do our construction administration. But this solicitation is for phase one only, and being able to generate materials that will help you raise funds is paramount in that process. It's not just doing the schematic design, it's figuring out how you're actually going to generate the funds you need to build this building. That's something that we have a lot of experience with, and we'll show you in a little more detail. We also are very focused on value and flexibility in all of our designs, and I think that's one of the things that this particular project will benefit from hugely. You have a lot of different user groups within the space, and being able to accommodate their changing needs is going to be important in the longevity of this building and not having to come back in and make alterations very soon after the fact. Previously mentioned sort of the changing role of architecture, of agriculture through from the previous generation to now. This is a shot of strawberries on 903, and we realize that you have sort of an outreach component. The 4-H component might be part of what you've got going on in here, and really bringing home, this is your logo here in terms of knowing what you're eating, basically. And it's not quite that visceral maybe to a young girl looking at some chickens, but it's important to be in touch with agriculture on a first-hand basis from a very young age. And that's one of the things that is very appealing about that strawberry farm on 903. People go out there, and it's not just about picking your own strawberries. It's about understanding the changing role of agriculture and not being removed from it. You're not going to a grocery store. You understand where those things come from. We mentioned sort of the biotechnical side of things. Amy Sproul, we've done some very cost-effective jobs on a per square foot basis, but we've also done some of the most technical research spaces in eastern North Carolina. She was in charge of an upfit. It was about a $500,000 upfit for a BSL-2 lab where they actually research mosquitoes, about a $400 square foot research space. So as technical as you're going to get, this team is capable of handling that type of space should you get into heavier research within this facility than you're really showing in your program document right now. And what we do is not just lip service. This is, we've read your solicitation closely, and there's a component with regard to the way outreach is done. This photo here on the right is the City of Greenville in conjunction with the nonprofit Uptown Greenville, the Master Gardeners for Pitt County, and MHA Works all collaborated on a streetscape improvement that we sort of generated the impetus for doing that project. So we're trying to get programs like Master Gardeners out into the public eye where people want to donate money to those potential uses. Pat McCrory recognized us for service. This is on the left-hand side there. You actually see the Creative Food Drive. It's a food drive that we do in Durham. We've probably got 500 or 600 hours a year in making that food drive happen. So we realize that that's also a component of what this facility will be doing. On the side of proven fundraising, this is a rendering that we've done for the Ronald McDonald House. It's very heavily supported by private donations. So they would not be able to do the types of, this is a multi-million-dollar addition to their existing facility in Chapel Hill. We designed the original facility. This is about a $7 million add to that facility, made possible by some of the fundraising material that we have generated in-house. This is an innovation lab on East Carolina's campus. There at the bottom, you see the chancellor speaking to a group of folks in the space. We have been instrumental in figuring out how to put the renderings in front of folks. This was unveiled at a board of trustee meeting to make those projects happen through the solicitation of donations, grants, those types of things. these are all renderings that we've done. None of these are photographic. The bottom one, a lot of folks believe is a photograph. So we can do a very wide cross-section of fundraising materials. With me today, I've got a couple of booklets that we have done that sort of exemplify what we do in-house. Be glad to share those with anyone here. On the left-hand side here, you actually will see some of the fundraising materials that we've actually given to clients to go talk to banks about financing. The digital front porch, our office is in Durham, so that's another NPR's right there also. We've done a lot of work with them for fundraising purposes. You see a list of various clients here on the right-hand side that have all been enabled by fundraising efforts that we have been privy to. And there's a statement regarding how the materials we produce facilitate grants and lending for those projects. We feel like this is really one of the biggest assets our team can bring to this project. And this is not us putting words in our client's mouth. These are unsolicited comments about what we do. I mentioned our...
Excuse me, can you
Yeah.
pass those books while
Yes, sir.
during the presentation?
We mentioned the analogous nature of the Eastern 4-H project. That's about a 20,000 square foot facility. Your particular program is essentially something very similar to this with a pretty significant office component on top of it. So we really feel like you've got an 8,000 square foot multi-purpose space with this facility. You've got 3 classrooms. And what we want to highlight here is that the budget is analogous. It's very pragmatic. We noticed that there was sort of a focus on being sustainable, but putting function ahead of... I grew up with farmers, and I understand it's got to work before there's a bunch of sort of design that's potentially superfluous to making it work. And this facility does exactly that. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to visit it, but should there be time ahead of making a selection, I would encourage you to go down and talk with Lee Scripture, head of that facility, and take a look at that. When the last hurricane that came through Terrell County basically took the middle school offline, in terms of versatility, the entire middle school moved into this building until they had an operation. So that really speaks to the versatility of the space. There are a lot of amenities that we feel are very analogous to your facility. They have gun and knife shows in this space. They want to be able to have a wedding if someone wanted to rent it and generate revenue in this space. So even though it's a conference and recreation space, they want to figure out how they can generate revenue through this facility. I have a couple of photos of the exterior and interior of that Eastern 4-H space. There you see in the main hall, it's all bamboo flooring. So it's a rapidly renewable product, as hard as a maple floor, so you can play basketball on it, but you can also drive a lull in there, change your lights. We've got an 8-foot door. If you want to drive a whole vehicle in there, it's got a 6-inch concrete slab under that space, so it enables it to be used very much like a convention center as long as they protect the floor adequately. Here you see at the ribbon cutting event that the Chancellor spoke at, you could see sort of how the room was set up for a multi-purpose type engagement. The daylighting is really one of the biggest successes of this space. Here you see the lights off and the lights on in an 8,000 square foot room. Even though we've got the lighting controls in this space that you would want with an energy efficient building, the space is fully operational from a recreation standpoint with not a light on in the entire 8,000 square feet. Another of our jobs is a SEEDS nonprofit community center. It's a much smaller scale job, but it's really about urban agriculture. And it's right in the middle of downtown Durham. You see a handful of, these are all rendered images here. You see the floor plan there at the bottom center. The facility just recently was completed, but it was enabled through grants. The community is very excited about all of the sustainable features within this very compact space. It has a cistern for watering the garden, so they're not using potable water for their gardening programs. It's very well day lit. And let's see here. One of the things that we realize is agriculture a lot of times is not perceived of as sexy is maybe not the right word, but a lot of folks don't really understand agriculture. There are a lot less people working in agriculture today than there were a generation ago. This is one of the premier women's boutiques in Durham, and as soon as we finished this seed project, they asked if they could use it for a photo shoot for their marketing purposes. So the spaces that we're involved in designing are being put out on social media without the owner having to pay a premium for those things. So we feel like that's one of the things we could bring to this project should we be selected. In terms of value and versatility, we recently completed a project for Terrell County Schools. The last hurricane actually flooded out their school board space. We renovated a space that used to be operated by Marine Fisheries for $42 a square foot. And it's first class. Dr. Dunsmore, the head of the school system down there, raves about it. And there was a new mechanical system involved in that. We had some outdoor additions to that, site lighting. In the commissioner meeting, I was accused of being lavish with budget, and I told the commission that for $42 a square foot, I would take that as the biggest compliment I've ever been paid. So I'm very proud of our ability to create value for folks within the context of their budget. We do a wide variety of office spaces. These are some open office spaces, conference meeting rooms. We don't know the character that you all want. We would obviously figure that out in short order. We've done sort of open office type spaces. We've done, this is on the right here is a project in downtown Durham, about 45,000 square feet, all office space, so very analogous to the amount of office that you have in your particular facility. And all of these, this was the first LEED silver project for Durham County. So wherever possible, we try to get into sustainable design where there's no cost premium to an owner. So that's something that we take very seriously and trying to provide. And even on the upper end of sort of the spectrum, we realize that you want a space that's pragmatic, but you might also be trying to talk about architecture to people, agriculture to people who aren't here yet, who haven't invested money here yet. We've done, in the RTP area, spaces that are conducive to doing that. So if you want to have a couple rooms in this facility that you're trying to attract new businesses into the area, we don't feel like we're second to anyone with regard to being able to provide you that type of space. Our approach to your particular project, you've got a more detailed, I want to compliment you all, a more detailed program document that I have seen in a long time. We started putting together some design ideas, and we're like, well, you kind of know what you want. It's there. That your 7% budget that you've got allocated for architectural and engineering services, this team, more than any team you're going to talk to today, can operate within that confines because we work so closely together. In phase one, if that $700,000 you've got earmarked is essentially divided by 3, you're talking about a third of that is what you're hiring for folks today. We're completely aware of what that means, and we're prepared to figure out how to make best use of that funds to the ends of your project. Your preferred site is a gorgeous site. Danny was there with Noel and some folks here recently and taking a look at it. And you don't often get a site with a little bit of fall in eastern North Carolina, so we're excited about that opportunity. We did notice in your program document, go here, that there was some discussion of how on which floors, if you did a multi-floor building to conserve part of the site, which floor your convention space might be on. And the only thing in reading your program document that I would strongly encourage you to deviate from the previously planned exercise is putting the large meeting space on the lowest level rather than on the upper level. If you're going to do an agricultural show, I mean, I read where you had block behind brick as the primary structural system for the building. It makes a lot of sense in a lot of convention centers where you bring in horses or whatnot where you're worried about damage to the walls, but you're not going to want that on the second floor of a building. So I would strongly encourage you to have direct access to the exterior of the building so that the space is as versatile as you could get it. One of the things that we hear consistently whenever we work with folks is the way that we're a 35-person architectural office. So while The people that you're seeing here would be involved throughout the entire process with Wayne County. Up front, what we would do is bring in all of our company owners to your user group meetings. We've got 10 licensed architects on our staff currently. We feel like that's a lot of horsepower to make your job happen as fast as it needs to happen. And we would basically facilitate any user group meetings that need to be done in addition to the programming that you've already got as a document, so that we can make sure we're not misinterpreting the character of the space, any opportunities for shared conference spaces. You've got a lot of sort of separate cubbies of user groups, but there might be some opportunities to share some spaces and make more use out of those. And we're going to do all of that discussion before we put any pencil to paper. A lot of architects think they know better what you need than you do. We're going to figure out what you want and then start putting pencil to paper. We mentioned that job for Terrell County here on the right, the vertical building orientation is, we did 5 or 6 different renditions of what that might look like for Terrell County before they decided what they wanted. And these are very simple sketches, but they really help user groups understand whose office is next to who, how does that work, can we share an office space, how does that work from a security standpoint. You've got so many different user groups that are, is everyone having direct access to the exterior, is someone having to walk through part of someone else's space to share a conference room or something of that nature. And these tools really help those user groups tremendously. We talked a little bit about budget. This is the $25 million project. This is since we made this submission in design development, which is exactly where your project would be taken to 2 days ago. So here you see sort of the original advanced planning numbers. There you see the OC25 that the East Carolina used based off that. They have allocated hard and soft costs within their yellow sheet budget. And you can see the level of consistency from, in this process, if you do decide to deliver it with one architect now and a different architect through the bridging delivery method in phase 2, making sure that you have some consistency in the estimating at every phase is important. What we're trying to show is the consistency in estimating on a project of this scale, and that's something that we have experience with and we're confident we can bring to your particular project. To sort of close, what we want to really underscore is that our team has the expertise. We may look like the youngest team that you're going to see here today, but I don't think that's a shortcoming. I think that we have proven ourselves, talked to any of the people we do work for, and about 75% of our clients are repeat clients. So once we've interviewed for projects here at Wayne County, I don't think there's been a solicitation you've put out, except maybe your school project, that we haven't interviewed for in the past 4 years. So we've talked to Wayne County a lot about projects. We were selected on one of those, and there was a change in commission. It was your social service / health department council on aging project. It was going to be a renovation on William Street. Because priorities change, we were never under contract, but we feel confident that once you actually have an opportunity to work with us, not just talk to us in an interview, that you would want to work with us consistently thereafter. We have the time to work on your project. That's important. We're not selling with a principal that's not going to work on it. We're going to be the ones working on your particular project. Because that $25 million DD package was just turned in this week, we've got the opportunity and the resources with our A team to work on this project, and the enthusiasm. We care about making agriculture important to this generation and attracting business to this generation, so farmland doesn't become housing developments that are great when they're new, but in 5 years it's not like having open cropland. It's not the same. So we hope that we can answer any questions that you have with our team here today, and we thank you very much for the opportunity.
Questions, folks?
Did you say you're working on a project with Coastal Agribusiness
We are?
in Kinston or Greenville?
No, that's actually in Carthage.
Carthage.
Mhm.
Okay. Is it just a distribution center? Or?
It is a distribution center. It's a 40,000 square foot distribution center and an office component to that also. That's a design build project. We're working with Stocks and Taylor. But we do a lot of design build work, so a lot of the folks who would, obviously be coming to any type of services that you offer in this building are our clients on the private side.
I would like to hear a little more from Mr. Tyson about some of the landscape and some of the projects that you've worked on, some of your concepts that you would
Sure.
vision for them.
Well, I don't know how well, I'll tell you what, let me just hand this and I can pass this around. As already mentioned, with our office, we're 2 blocks down the street from his office. We do a considerable amount of work for East Carolina University. That is a rendition of a set of plans that we've recently completed for their West End renovations. Our landscape architects, I'm trying to think of something that would be a good example that you may be familiar with. I can't think of one right now, but I know in reading your program, it talks about, particularly with the site that y'all selected, the parking is all right there in front of the building, and there's going to be a challenge to sort of isolate that parking from the building so that it doesn't feel like the building's just sitting in a big sea of asphalt. And that's where, you know, our landscape architects in particular prefer using native materials, things that grow in eastern North Carolina, things that require less water than some exotic plantings, and things that are familiar to people. And I think that's what we would try to do here is, you know, we want to make this as appealing as we can, but at the same time, we don't want to design something that's going to be costly to maintain or, you know, fails after 2 growing seasons.
In Dirk's office, he's being very modest. His office does a very wide cross-section of work. You've got about a 500-car parking burden to this project. They've done all over eastern North Carolina projects with parking burdens in excess of that. I don't know how often y'all come to Greenville, but the whole Physicians East large complex there on Arlington, that was all their design.
Well, when you come into Greenville, before you get to the hospital, there's a 1,500 space parking lot that we did as a design build for the hospital, start to finish in about 90 days. That was one where they had a big building construction project getting ready to start, and they needed to move all their employees, and so they needed something quick. But that's probably the largest freestanding parking lot I've worked on, and it just happens to be probably the fastest one ever built.
But you know, we're also sort of actively thinking about which way the parking would need to be oriented to limit, you know, the speed of stormwater runoff on your site, on a preferred site with that slope. Dirk is about as good an expert in eastern North Carolina when it comes to stormwater as I'm aware of. He ribs me all the time about green roofs don't really help with stormwater, so we have a little good back and forth about some of that.
We do have some friendly disagreements as to how you comply with the state stormwater rules or local stormwater programs.
But your parking space, when you do have some type of convention with your facility, could very easily, you know, if you're having an agricultural show, it needs to be versatile enough. You know, a 10 by 20 space might not work if you're going to park a bunch of tractors out there. So that's one of the things that we would actively think about. So if you're going to have that type of show, that your parking lot, not just your building, also has that level of versatility.
Right.
You mentioned the importance of construction administration. Talk to me about your firm's approach to construction administration, who is involved, walk me through your construction administration program.
Perfect. We, unlike a lot of other design firms, we are very strong believers that the people who do the design work, who do the drawings, are actually involved in the construction administration. We have found that is paramount to understanding and catching mistakes before they become time-consuming and slow a process down. That is the single biggest thing that we do differently than a lot of our competitors that really translates to excellent construction administration. Feel free to talk to T.A. Loving, local contractor, Barnhill Contracting. If they could pick an architect that they'd want to work with in eastern North Carolina, the project that Amy Sproul mentioned earlier, Whitehall, $16 million job, they're doing $3 million worth of a 10-story building renovation in about 70 days while students are gone. And our contract has us listed as doing weekly inspections. You can't do a job like that with weekly inspections. We're probably on site twice a day. The owner is not paying for that. It's a function of what we do when we do CA. And that's the reason that if any of the contractors we do work for had to pick an architect in CA, I'm confident that they would rank us in the top 2 or 3 that they work with.
Thank you.
Anybody else on this scene? I'm particularly interested in the, about generation of funds through your promotional stuff. Is that just part of the package, or is it extra cost, or?
No, that would be part of what you would get when you hire us.
Okay. Is that just on print, or could we get it digital?
You could have that. That's one of the things that, there's some really nice aerial photography in our presentation. We've got 2 very good in-house photographers. If you wanted us to fly over the site and take some before and after shots, those are things that benefit us in our marketing. So if they're going to benefit us in our marketing, you're not paying extra for it. It's just something that you get as a function of what we do to win future work.
I think that's very important because, as you well know, this is just the first step. We've got to still raise additional funds, so
Right.
that's going to be of great importance to us.
And there are not a lot of architecture firms that are 35 people that have a marketing program as good as we do. We put a lot of time. I'm saying that I wish they were here to speak up for themselves, but the quote that we had in there regarding the self-help fundraising, that was completely unsolicited and really speaks to, if a lender wants to do something, that's huge in being able to convey that adequately. Dan Gerlach with Golden Leaf Foundation, we did a project for the Martin County Arts Council. It was a labor of love. We worked with them for about 6 years to rehab the Flatiron Building in downtown Williamston. We didn't make a lot of money on it. A.R. Chesson was the contractor. I'm sure he didn't make a lot of money on it, but Dan Gerlach at the end of the job said he's never seen that much money go that far. And I think that's what we bring to your project.
Were you able to get any money out of Dan Gerlach?
I do think that's the reason he was there, because the upfront design work that you're talking about, that's part of what you get when you hire us, was part of the reason he was there, because there was some grant funds involved in that.
Anybody else? Fellow commissioners?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you.
I knew you would, but that's fine.
Then make them come up to the mic.
Oh, if they're making us do it, I don't blame them.
Yes, I'm Ray Mayo. I'm the facilities chairman here in Wayne County. As you know, we're in the process of building the Steele Memorial Library down in Mount Olive. And one of my questions is that the maintenance and utility costs and administrative costs is going to be here for 100 years if the world survives. So I want to ask you, as far as green energy is concerned, and one of the things that we've learned with the Steele Memorial Library, do you have experience with solar tubes rather than having big windows for natural light? Are there other alternatives we can use to maybe conserve energy?
Let me actually go back to, that's a great question. I want to go back to this slide that we had in our presentation. Solar tubes, generally speaking, you don't want to have a bunch of skylights or glass that get direct solar exposure in the hot parts of the year. And so if you look at this particular slide, you'll see that there are 6 skylights in this space and a lot of north-facing glass. That north-facing glass never gets, we modeled this in our building information modeling software on that physical site and ran the sun angle calculation. So all the overhangs that you see on the exterior of the building here, those are intentionally that size. When the weather's hot, just like a good southern farmhouse is designed, when the weather's hot, your glass doesn't get the sun on it. When it's cool, you want that sun on it. And so that's what happens with this building. All of that expanse of glass facing north never gets direct sun on it. So the orientation of the building has a whole lot to do with not paying money to cool something down just to get the daylight benefit. Those 6 skylights, that is the bare minimum number of skylights that we could put in that space to make it function from a lighting standpoint with no lights on in the space. So you're not getting any more heat gain in this space through any of the glass than you would otherwise. One thing that we did here after this project was completed from a facilities and maintenance standpoint is they have one maintenance person for the entire Eastern 4-H Center. That's a lot of glass to wash. So that's the only comment that we got with that regard. But it's very hard to daylight a building without having access to the sun. So solar tubes and skylights both are vehicles that we've used. The Seeds project is one that we actually used. I think here we talk about the solar tubes on one of the slides. So yes, we have experience in both of those.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And Wilson raises a great issue on our DOT project that Danny is working on. That's a little ahead of schedule now. We actually, it's a very wide, it's a heavy equipment maintenance depot, about 75 feet, so they can pull a long trailered vehicle into the space. And they have coiling doors. They didn't want to have doors with lights in them, so it's really hard to daylight a facility when there are no windows essentially in most of the wall surface. But we've got an insulated sandwich system instead of glass up high to help daylight that facility. And that's one of the things that we look at irrespective of what job type or what sustainability goals, just because it makes good sense in terms of the operations long term.
Any additional questions?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I
Okay.
actually do have
Oh,
a
right.
question this time. I think one of the things that I agree with the chairman here that, and that is the fundraising aspect of this. Because it's one thing to have a vision, it's another thing to have the funds necessary to get this done. And I think the chairman and the committee and everyone is looking at going after fundraising, naming rights or whatever. But over and beyond that, we all know that we basically have a design of today's needs. Can you explain how you would design the building for future needs to enlarge and so forth?
That is a great question, and it has a lot of different components to the answer there. You've got making the building 2 stories up front. It already sounds like that's a recommendation, but not using up more of the site than you have to, because if you're going to enlarge the facility, you're going to need that space. So that's one right off the bat. And with any project that we do, even the sort of complicated boxed-in site that we're doing with the $25 million project that we're doing for East Carolina University right now, we're showing where and how you would add on to that project. So that's something that we do with every project, is sort of show what a maximum build-out of a facility could be, where those folks would park, and how that would operate. So that's part of our standard fare of design. From a building system standpoint, that's something that we want to talk to you all about early, because you know, if you're just doing sort of the building as it's presented today, the mechanical system that we'd advocate for might be very different than if you're telling us you want to triple the size of the total campus, and we would basically need to maybe spend more money up front to get that system in place so that you could bring those other projects online without having to add a chiller at that time. So those are things that we would want to put on the table early to make sure that we're not designing a very good solution for a standalone 60,000 square foot building, but if you try to double the facility, it doesn't make good operational sense. And in terms of how we treat that from a fundraising standpoint, we have not ever had issues facilitating fundraising for people that we've worked with. The bigger challenge that we've had is we don't want to sell a vision that, should you elect to only keep us through the phase 1 part of this project, we don't want to help you sell one vision and then someone else delivers a sort of watered down version of what people ultimately donated money for. One of our recent clients, we helped them raise money in sort of record time, and then they did exactly that and changed delivery method midstream. And they're delivering a building that's $500,000 cheaper, but the value per dollar that's being spent is not good in the context of saving that $500,000. And a lot of the donors are like, well, this is what I donated money to. So I would encourage you to think that through very detailed, so that you don't hire us and we put a very nice package for donation together, and then that becomes an issue in hindsight. So that's one thing I would caution you against.
Anyone else? Any closing remarks?
We thank you very much for having the opportunity to come speak with you all today. We feel like the team that we have, MHA works with a lot of different engineering and architectural firms of all sizes. The team that we have for this particular project, we feel like is one that we work with a lot and really best suited to the pragmatic nature of your project, needing to be able to deliver it in a hurry. The fact that we work together on so many projects, we probably work together on somewhere between 30 and 50 projects a year. So it's how we work together is important and will be important to making your job a success, and we hope we have the opportunity with this project to show that off. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming in today, and again, another excellent presentation. Of course, I've got to see you present here before. It took me a little while to remember, but.
Well, we hope the next time it's more memorable than the last. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to be in recess for a few minutes where they can change the media room back there so we can move on.
Thank you.